NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake is in Washington. Our Vaughn Hilliard is at a farm in Burlington, Iowa. Also with us, incoming co-host of MSNBC's evening edition of The Weekend, Catherine Rampell, and professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan, Justin Wolfers. Garrett, do we have any more insight from the White House about whether this will be a flat tariff on all imports or just certain sectors or different levels for different countries?
Anna, the White House and the president have been giving contradictory bits of evidence and sort of hints about what will be in this package when it ultimately gets announced this afternoon. The latest guidance I have was a wave off of the idea that there would somehow be one global rate set on imports from all around the world, that this would be country by country specific, as the president and the White House use essentially a formula to figure out what those countries are charging American exporters when we export goods into those countries, plus other factors about how they manage their economies that the president has found unfair over the years. That secret sauce, though, has been kept under wraps, and the president and even his top aides are saying different things about whether what we hear today will be the ceiling or the floor for any additional tariffs going forward. We know as recently as late yesterday, there were still meetings going on this topic at the White House to finalize what's going to be rolled out. We know a little bit more about how that rollout will occur today. Of course, a 4 o'clock announcement in the Rose Garden. That's notably after the markets are closed to potentially lessen the impact of whatever is announced. And a friendly crowd will be there to watch the president make this announcement. We're told by the White House that the folks in attendance today will include workers, steam fitters, truck drivers, auto workers, the kinds of primarily blue-collar workers who the president believes could potentially most benefit from the reshoring of American jobs that have moved overseas over the years. But of course, Anna, as our economists will no doubt talk about, that kind of thing only works if this is permanent and long-lasting major economic policy shift. And we don't even know if that's going to be the case or if these are an announcement leading to a negotiation for something else down the road.
And we appreciate all of that information, what we know at this point. Garrett, thanks. Vaughn, you're in Iowa. This is a state that went for President Trump, a state with a robust agricultural sector. What are you hearing from farmers there? Are they worried?
Right. You're actually on just showing the stock market ticker. And I'm actually on the farm of Jim and Terry Johnson here in Burlington, Iowa. And the way they put it to me is that they don't watch the stock market. They watch the commodities market, which shows what the price of corn, soybeans, pork is on a daily basis. And it's important to remember the context of this trade war and the fact that 7 years ago, it was these very same agricultural producers, farmers from the lobstermen and women in Maine to the soybean and corn farmers here in Iowa to the cherry and apple growers in Washington state who bared the burden of the first trade war against China, Mexico, Canada, the EU, losing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the not only tariffs, but the retaliatory tariffs that are anticipated yet again to come in response to these tariffs being announced by the U.S. president today. I want to let you listen to part of my conversation with farmer Bob Hemasath in Decorah, Iowa, who voted for now President Trump, as well as Jim and Terry Johnson, who did not. Take a listen.
I don't know where it ends. I hope it ends soon. I don't necessarily agree with the tariffs, but I want to know what markets are you looking at to open for my goods?
These tariffs are supposed to be leveling the playing field, maybe long term, but there again, we're not the only place in the world that grows corn and soybeans. People like reliable trading partners, and farmers like to be able to sell their grain.
The point made by any farmer that you talk to of essentially any good is that there are competitors to American growers. And if you take corn, for instance, Brazil, and that other countries are able to turn to other markets. And even Farmer Bob, who voted for President Trump 3 times, said that there are still long-term consequences of the first trade war. Export markets, buyers overseas who turn to other countries instead of American growers. When you're looking at corn, for instance, 30% of U.S. corn is exported. When you're looking at pork, 25% of pork is exported overseas. And that is what they fear in the months ahead, and exactly what President Trump is looking for in terms of concessions from these vast number of countries that he's now beginning trade wars with.
Vaughn Hilliard, thank you for that reporting. Garrett Haake, thanks. Keep us posted on any new developments there. Catherine, there is the impact on farmers, which Vaughn just, really laid out well for us. There's also the impact on the consumers. So how quickly could people see prices change at the grocery store, at Target, at Best Buy?
Well, obviously, it depends on what the tariffs are targeting, which, again, we still don't know, which is astonishing to me, given that they're supposed to be implemented today. But I don't think it's reasonable to expect that they would happen immediately, that we would see the price effects immediately. Some of these markets are forward-looking and may have started to price in, at the very least, the uncertainty here. But for something like automobiles, right? Automakers and dealers have been anticipating tariffs for a while, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if you show up at a dealer's lot today, the prices are going to go up. However, as these dealers start to deplete their current inventories and replace them, they will start pricing in higher prices because of these tariffs, because of the tariffs not only on the finished cars themselves, but the inputs to those cars. So it may take a few months. But the most likely consequence is that at least some of the cost of these additional import taxes will be passed along to consumers at some point.
Justin, you say this will be the biggest tax hike since the 90s. Explain.
It is. For viewers, what really matters is the kitchen table issues. How far can your paycheck go? This is the single biggest tax hike since 1993. They claim they'll raise $600 billion doing this. We can immediately take that $600 billion, divide by the number of households, and what that's telling you is that American households are going to have to come up with round about another $5,000 a year in order to pay for these taxes. So it's not just a tax hike. Normally, with most American taxes, the higher your income, the higher your income tax rate. But this is the sort of tax where we're taxing things like groceries, fruit and vegetables, which rich people eat as much of as poor people. So poor people are going to end up spending a larger share of their income. That is to say, this is a tax hike where the largest rise in the tax rate is for poor and middle-class Americans. So it's not only the largest tax hike in decades, it's the most regressive in living memory.
Well, Catherine, the Trump administration does say this is going to be a great thing for American businesses. And yet, here's what the CEO of Ford told investors back in February, quote, let's be real, honest, long-term, a 25% tariff across Mexico and Canada borders would blow a hole in the U.S. industry that we've never seen. This is from a U.S. automaker. So a couple different predictions here. Donald Trump, the president, keeps calling this Liberation Day today. How do you see it?
I think Donald Trump plans to liberate Americans from affordable cars, a robust economy, and basically all of our closest friends. That's what he's liberating us from. And the CEO of Ford, among other executives, are correct that, in fact, this will hurt U.S. businesses. The uncertainty alone has been terrible for them, but it will raise their costs. If we are tariffing, for example, the parts that go into automobiles, steering wheels from Mexico, steel from Canada, that's going to raise the costs of these cars, right? And again, some of that will be passed along to consumers. Some of it may be absorbed by the companies themselves, and some of it may be absorbed by workers in the form of fewer jobs or fewer hours or what have you. And we've already seen some of those announcements coming down the pike. That because of these higher costs, because of this uncertainty, companies are either holding off on hiring or outright laying off workers.
Yeah, talk about that, Justin, the impact on the American worker, because we keep hearing President Trump argue that this will create incentive for people to buy American. It will lead to a boost in U.S. production. It will create more jobs here as businesses boost that manufacturing at home. When would that happen? If those jobs do come, will they be good paying jobs? How do you see it?
Well, the good paying jobs is really worth talking to because the American public and the White House have something of an obsession with manufacturing. But it's worth noting, actually, that manufacturing jobs are not particularly well paying. They're below average. But I think I want to take a step back and think about it. The idea is to try and bring more factories to the United States. Now, it takes a long time to build a factory. So if I'm thinking about building a factory, I'm not thinking about the tariff rate today. I'm thinking about the tariff rate by the time the factory's built, say 2028, and then over the ensuing several decades the factory's open, over the next 30 or 40 years. The problem with the Trump White House chaos is that by the end of today, we'll know what the tariff rate is on April 1st, 2025, but we will have no idea what that means for 2026, 2030, 2040, and so on. And so if he's not actually shifting people's expectations of the long-run future, he's not going to get any of the benefits that he's hoping for.